The line in the stars. The galaxy had grown used to the power of the Empire. Its fleet spread across star systems like endless waves. Planet after planet bent their knees, paying tribute and obeying laws written in golden halls far from their own skies. For centuries, no one had dared to resist. No one, except humanity. At the edge of mapped space, Terran colonies had grown strong. Miners carved wealth from asteroids. Farmers made green worlds bloom. Engineers built stations that lit the darkness with life. Humanity had spilled into the stars, claiming its own corner of the galaxy. For years, the Empire tolerated them, thinking of Terrans as small, young, and unworthy of fear. But then the Empire's hunger reached too far. Scouts began testing Terran, borders slipping across patrol lines. At first, they only scanned, mapping colonies in silence. But soon they became bold, raiding outposts, harassing supply convoys, and demanding tribute. In one lonely station above the colony world of Asteron, alarms screamed as Empire frigates appeared from the void. Their hulls gleamed with the silver crest of the Emperor. The Terran patrol, only 2 corvettes, stood no chance. "This is Terran space," the patrol commander shouted across comms. "Withdraw immediately." The reply came cold and sharp. "There is no Terran space, only the Empire." Moments later, plasma fire ripped through the corvettes. The station's last transmission carried only static and fire. News spread quickly through human colonies. Miners cursed, families wept. Children whispered fearfully about the silver ships. For the first time in decades, Terrans felt the shadow of conquest pressing against their homes. But Earth did not stay silent. On the Cradle World, in the Assembly Hall of Nations, leaders gathered. The chamber was vast, filled with voices from every human colony. Soldiers, politicians, and workers stood side by side as one. Admiral Rourke, scarred by old battles, spoke first. His voice carried across the chamber like thunder. "The Empire thinks us weak. They believe we will bow. But Haven 4 taught us the price of silence. Never again. If they cross our borders, they will find nothing but fire." The hall roared with approval. Yet there were others who feared the storm. Elder Maya, oldest voice of the council, raised her hand. Her eyes were wise, her words steady. "War will consume us all. If we are to fight, it must not be for pride. It must be for survival. Let us speak with one voice so the galaxy hears us clearly." And so humanity spoke. The next day, a single ship left Earth's orbit. It carried no weapons, only a messenger. The envoy traveled deep into Empire territory, escorted by no fleet, protected by no soldiers. Just one human ship, plain and unshaken. In the grand palace of the Empire, under vaulted ceilings of gold, the human envoy stood before the Emperor's throne. The court laughed at the sight of him, a lone Terran surrounded by endless power. But the envoy did not bow. His voice rang clear and sharp. "This is Earth's decree," he said. "Do not cross into Terran space. This is the final warning." The chamber fell silent for a moment, shocked at such boldness. Then the laughter began again, louder than before. Nobles jeered, captains smirked, and the Emperor himself leaned forward on his throne. "Your decree?" the Emperor mocked. "You presume much for a race so young. The stars belong to the Empire. We will cross wherever we wish." The envoy's eyes burned with steel. "Then you will pay the price," he said. Without another word, he turned and left the palace. The Empire's court mocked him until the doors closed. None of them realized they had just heard the beginning of their own destruction. Far from the palace, at the edge of Terran space, fleets stirred. War factories on Mars began to roar. Hidden shipyards under frozen moons woke from slumber. Humanity had prepared for this day, even as the galaxy laughed, and now the line had been drawn. Across colonies, families whispered the envoy's words to one another. "Do not cross into Terran space." Farmers taught it to their children. Soldiers carved it into their armor. Miners scrawled it across tunnels. The decree spread like fire through the hearts of all humanity. But the Empire did not believe. Scouts continued to gather at the borders. Fleets massed in the dark. The Emperor's arrogance blinded him to the storm about to break, and deep inside the Terran command halls, Admiral Rourke stood over a glowing map of the stars. His hands clenched into fists, his eyes fixed on the red markers pressing into their borders. "They think our words are empty," he growled. "Let them test us. Let them cross. They will learn that Terran space is where empires end." The line in the stars had been drawn, and soon it would be written in fire. The first violation. The decree had been spoken. The envoy's words echoed across every colony. Do not cross into Terran space. Humanity had drawn its line, but the Empire only laughed. On the far edge of Terran borders, in the quiet system of Valara, the first violation came. It began with a shadow. A mining station reported strange signals, faint flickers on their scanners. At first, the workers thought it was nothing, maybe a glitch, maybe a stray comet, but the flickers grew sharper, stronger, until the screens filled with silver hulls. The Empire had arrived. 3 frigates and a heavy cruiser dropped from faster-than-light travel, their cannons glowing with power. The station's commander rushed to the comms. "This is Terran space," she shouted. "By Earth's decree, you are ordered to withdraw." The reply came cold and cruel. "This is no Terran space, only Empire space." Before her words could reach Earth, the alien cruiser fired. A beam of plasma ripped through the mining station's shield, turning steel into fire. Hundreds of miners screamed as oxygen burst from the shattered hull. Terran patrol ships scrambled to defend, but they were few. Only 2 corvettes against the Empire's fleet. They fought bravely, darting between the larger ships, their railguns hammering at shields. One even managed to cripple a frigate's engines. But it was not enough. One by one, the patrols were destroyed. The last corvette exploded in silence, its wreckage drifting across the black void. The Empire's cruiser transmitted a final message, broadcasting it across open channels. "This is the fate of those who defy the Emperor. Your decree is nothing." Then they vanished back into the void, leaving only wreckage and smoke behind. The news reached Earth within hours. Across the colonies, screens replayed the images of burning ships and dying miners. Children cried. Families clenched their fists, in rage. Everywhere, one question was whispered. What will Earth do now? Inside the War Council chamber on Titan, the leaders gathered once more. The air was thick with anger. Admiral Rourke slammed his fist on the table, his voice like a blade. They crossed the line. They ignored our warning. If we do nothing, the decree is a joke. The galaxy will see us as weak. General Yara, her eyes sharp but cautious, leaned forward. We must not rush into full war. The Empire wants us to react blindly. We need precision, strategy. If we reveal everything too soon, the galaxy will unite against us. Rourke glared at her. So you would let them kill our people and smile? Elder Maya's voice cut through the room. Calm, steady, yet filled with steel. We will not smile, and we will not be silent. But our answer must be more than rage. It must be final. A heavy silence followed her words. Then Admiral Rourke stood tall. Then it is time, he said. Time to awaken the Iron Decree. The officers around him shifted in their seats. Many had heard rumors of it. A hidden protocol. A last resort plan forged in the darkest days after Haven 4. The Iron Decree Protocol. It was not just a military order. It was a promise written into the heart of Terran command. If any empire crossed into Terran space again, humanity would respond with fire no one could imagine. Rourke's voice echoed across the chamber. No more waiting. No more warnings. The decree has been violated. The Iron Decree Protocol is now active. At once, signals spread through secret channels. In shipyards hidden under frozen oceans, alarms lit up. Massive hangar doors opened. The first Nemesis-class dreadnoughts powered their engines, their hulls gleaming with black iron. Orbital factories began shifting production, pouring all resources into war. Across the colonies, soldiers received their orders. They strapped on armor, loaded rifles, and prepared for deployment. Families wept, but no one resisted. Everyone knew the line had been crossed. On Earth, in the assembly square, crowds gathered. When news of the violation was broadcast, they did not cry in fear. They roared with fury. Farmers, miners, workers, and children all raised their voices together, chanting the decree. "Do not cross into Terran space. Do not cross." The sound shook the heart of every listener. Humanity was no longer divided. Meanwhile, in the palace of the Empire, the Emperor laughed when he heard of Earth's decree again. "They bark like dogs behind their borders," he sneered to his advisors. "Let them howl. We will crush them when we choose." But in the darkness of space, far beyond his sight, the Nemesis fleet prepared to move. Admiral Rourke stood on the bridge of the Eternal Wrath, watching as warships emerged one by one from hidden docks. His eyes burned with resolve. "They wanted proof of our decree," he said softly. "Now we will give it to them." The first violation had been made, and soon the galaxy would learn the price of crossing into Terran space. The Council of Earth. The news of Valara's destruction spread like wildfire. Images of burning corvettes and shattered mining stations replayed on every Terran screen. Families sat in silence, staring at the faces of lost sons and daughters. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Everywhere the same words whispered again and again. The decree was broken. Now the galaxy waited to see how Earth would answer. On Titan, inside the massive fortress station carved into ice and steel, the Council of Earth assembled. It was the greatest gathering of Terran leaders in history. Admirals in dark uniforms, generals in battle armor, scientists in long coats, governors from distant colonies, all sat in a vast chamber beneath a glowing map of the stars. At the center stood Elder Maya, her silver hair lit by the glow. Her eyes moved across the room, watching the fury and fear written on every face. "This is not a council of words alone," she said. "This is the moment that will decide the future of our people. The Empire has crossed into Terran space. They have shed Terran blood. What is our answer?" The chamber erupted with voices. Admiral Rourke slammed his fist on the table. "War. That is the only answer. They mocked our warning, killed our miners, destroyed our ships. If we remain silent now, the galaxy will see us as nothing but prey." Several governors shouted in agreement. "If we do not act, they will come again and again." But others argued. General Yara rose, her face calm but sharp. "If we unleash full war now, the galaxy may unite against us. We must strike carefully, prove our power without burning the stars. A single mistake, and every empire will see us as the true threat." The chamber split in two. Fury against caution, fire against restraint. For hours voices clashed. Some demanded vengeance, others warned of disaster. No side would yield. At last Elder Maya raised her hand. Silence fell. "You are both right," she said softly. "Vengeance without wisdom is suicide. Restraint without strength is slavery. We cannot choose one or the other. We must be both." She turned toward Admiral Rourke. "You will lead the fleet." Then to General Yara. "You will shape its strategy. Together, you will remind the galaxy of our decree." The chamber waited. Her voice grew stronger. "Listen well. This is not about conquest. This is not about pride. This is survival. We will send one message to the galaxy. Terran space is sacred. Cross it, and you will not live to regret it." Her words burned into every heart. Slowly, one by one, the council members stood. First the admirals, then the generals, then the governors, then the scientists. All rose to their feet, their voices joining together in a single vow. "We stand as one. We fight as one. Terran space will not fall." Admiral Rourke stepped forward, the black Nemesis key in his hand. Its crimson glow filled the chamber with light. "This is the Council's decree," he said. "The Iron Decree Protocol is now fully active. Mobilize the Nemesis fleet." The chamber shook with the sound of approval. Far across the colonies, signals spread. War factories doubled production. Hidden shipyards released their shadows into space. Supercarriers so vast they blotted out the stars. Soldiers marched through cities as crowds cheered, holding banners that read, "Do not cross into Terran space." On Earth itself, a broadcast filled every screen. Elder Maya appeared, her voice steady and sharp. "The Empire has crossed our line. They have spilled our blood. Let the galaxy hear this. Earth does not beg. Earth does not bow. From this day forward, no empire shall cross into Terran space and live." Her words became a vow carried from star to star. But in the shadows of alien capitals, rulers whispered in fear. Some called for alliances against humanity. Others urged caution, warning that humans had prepared for this moment far longer than anyone knew. In the palace of the Empire, the Emperor listened to the Terran, broadcast and laughed. "Bold words from a fragile world," he sneered. "We will crush them before they can even move." But even as he mocked, Terran fleets were already forming. Super carriers lined the borders, dreadnoughts powered their cannons. Rail slugs the size of towers waited in loading bays. The Council of Earth had spoken. The decree was no longer words. It was now a blade aimed at the heart of the Empire. And soon, the stars would burn. Shadows at the gate. At the edge of Terran space, the stars looked quiet. Trade ships drifted between colonies, their engines humming softly. Farmers on frontier worlds gazed up at the night sky, believing the darkness to be peaceful. But deep, inside that darkness, something stirred. The Empire's fleets had gathered. Dozens of warships lined the border, their silver hulls glowing in the light of a nearby star. Captains whispered with arrogance. To them, humanity's decree was nothing, more than a threat from a child. Captain Vorth, commander of the patrol fleet, sneered as he studied his scanners. "Terrans bark like frightened animals," he told his officers. "But when the Empire steps forward, they will kneel. They always kneel." But as he spoke, his sensors flickered. At first, it looked like a shadow, a distortion, like the stars themselves were bending. Then the distortion grew larger, too large. One by one, Terran warships emerged from the void. First came the escorts, black and sharp, their hulls shaped for speed. Then the dreadnoughts, massive engines burning with blue fire. And then the supercarriers, giants of iron so vast they blocked out whole constellations. The Nemesis fleet had arrived. The alien crews froze, staring at their screens in disbelief. "Impossible. Humanity cannot build ships this size," one officer cried. But reality burned before their eyes. On the bridge of the Iron Vow, Captain Elias Kane stood calm. His crew waited in silence, every hand steady on their stations. Before them, the Empire's fleet glowed like silver fish in the dark sea. "Target their lead cruiser," Kane ordered. His voice was low, sharp, final. The Iron Vow obeyed. A thunderous railgun blast tore across the void, faster than light could catch. The alien cruiser's shields collapsed instantly. The round punched straight through its hull, splitting it apart in one burning heartbeat. The galaxy's silence shattered. The Nemesis fleet unleashed its fury. Railguns fired in storms, each slug the weight of a mountain. Dark matter torpedoes streaked across space, collapsing shields and igniting reactors. Smaller Terran ships darted between enemy formations, striking with precision, leaving only wreckage behind. The Empire's patrol fleet never stood a chance. "Return fire," Captain Vorth shouted, his voice cracking. Beams of plasma lashed out, striking Terran ships, but their armor held, their shields bent and then snapped back stronger. Where the Empire expected weakness, they found iron. Within minutes, half the patrol fleet was gone. Ships burned in silence, their hulls twisting into molten scars. The survivors panicked, scattering in every direction. On the Eternal Wrath, Admiral Rourke watched the chaos unfold. His eyes narrowed as reports filled his screen. "Do not chase them," he said coldly. "Let them run. Let them carry the message home." The Terran fleets obeyed. The surviving alien ships fled into faster-than-light space, their captains screaming warnings into the void. Back on the Iron Vow, Kane stood at the viewport, watching the wreckage drift. His crew cheered in victory, but his expression remained hard. "This was not the war," he said. "This was the warning." Across Terran space, the news spread. Screens replayed the footage. Terran supercarriers blotting out the stars, alien, cruisers burning in silence, the Empire's fleet shattered like glass. Colonies roared with pride. Farmers, miners, and children chanted the decree, "Do not cross into Terran space." But beyond human borders, the reaction was different. In alien capitals, rulers trembled. Spies delivered reports of Terran weapons that could tear through fleets in seconds. Some empires began drafting alliances. Others prayed the storm would pass them by. And in the palace of the Empire, the Emperor himself sat in silence as the reports were read. His laughter was gone now, replaced by a shadow of doubt. "They struck our patrol?" he whispered. "With this much power?" No one in the throne room dared to answer. Meanwhile, on Titan, the War Council received Kane's report. Elder Maya listened carefully, her hands folded. "The galaxy has seen our shadow," she said softly. "Now they will see our fire." Admiral Rourke nodded grimly. "The decree has been spoken, now it must be enforced." And so the Nemesis fleet prepared for its next move. Borders were no longer the limit. Humanity's vengeance was no longer contained. The shadows had shown themselves at the gate, and soon the galaxy would feel the fire that followed. The retaliation begins. The destruction of the Empire's patrol fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Survivors fled back to their rulers with wild eyes and shaking voices, telling of Terran warships larger than cities, of weapons that cut through shields like paper, of fleets that fought like demons. The galaxy had expected humanity to defend its borders. Instead, humanity was preparing to strike back. On Titan, the War Council gathered again. Holographic maps glowed red with targets inside the Empire's own space, supply depots, shipyards, fuel lines, colonies that fed the throne. Admiral Rourke stood at the center, his voice steady and cold. "The decree is not just defense, it is law, and laws must be enforced. We will carry the war into their territory. Let the Empire see that Terran space is not only defended, it is untouchable." Some council members hesitated. "If we push too far, the Council of Worlds may unite against us," General Yara warned. But Elder Maya shook her head. "No, they will not unite. They fear us too much, and fear is our greatest weapon now." The vote was unanimous. Retaliation would begin. In the black of space, Terran fleets moved like predators. The Iron Vow led the first strike, slipping into an enemy sector under the cover of deep space shadows. Escort ships darted ahead, their stealth plating bending light making them invisible to scanners. They struck supply convoys without warning, rail slugs tearing freighters apart, leaving wreckage burning across the void. At the same time, dreadnoughts targeted enemy shipyards. Massive torpedoes slammed into dry docks, destroying half-built cruisers before they could ever launch. Factories that had produced weapons for centuries now glowed like suns, their ruins drifting silently in the dark. And then came the most shocking move. Terran fleets descended on border colonies of the Empire itself. On the world of Koresh, alarms screamed as shadows blotted out the sky. Civilians looked upward, expecting their proud defenders, but instead saw Terran carriers, their black hulls blocking the stars. Marines dropped from orbit, their armor dark and heavy, faces hidden behind glowing visors. They moved with deadly discipline, disabling defense cannons and seizing command centers within hours. Governor Salric, trembling, knelt before the human commander. "Please, we surrender. Spare us." The commander's voice came cold through his helmet. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to remind you of our decree. Never cross into Terran space again." Then, without burning the colony to ash, the humans withdrew, leaving only silence and a fear far deeper than destruction. Across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. Alien rulers demanded answers. What do the Terrans want? Why do they strike and leave? Others muttered in fear. They fight only to punish. They fight like no one we have ever seen. The Empire's pride turned into panic. Fleets scrambled to defend their supply lines, but Terran ships were already there, cutting through routes like knives. Commanders begged for reinforcements, but resources could not reach them. Every convoy ended in flames. On the Eternal Wrath, Admiral Rourke watched reports of burning shipyards and captured colonies. His jaw tightened. Good. Let them taste helplessness. Let them feel what Haven 4 felt. But Captain Kane, standing nearby, asked the question none wanted to voice. How far will we go, Admiral? Where does retaliation end? Rourke's eyes remained hard. It ends when the Empire kneels. Not before. In the throne room of the Empire, fear finally cracked the Emperor's arrogance. Reports from his admirals were grim. Fleets destroyed, shipyards gone, supply worlds silent. He slammed his claws against the throne. They are not an empire, he roared. They are children of a single world. How can they do this? But his advisors did not answer. They had seen the footage. They had heard the screams of captains before their ships went silent. They knew the truth. Humanity was no longer a child. The decree had become fire. Back in Terran space, the colonies cheered as the news spread. For the first time in centuries, humanity was not defending, not begging, not hiding. They were striking first. Farmers, miners, workers, all shouted the words together. Do not cross into Terran space. The retaliation had begun, and somewhere in the black, Terran fleets gathered for their next move. Not just raids, not just strikes. The Empire's capital, itself now glowed red on their maps. The galaxy thought humanity had drawn a line, but humanity was about to erase the Empire's throne. The Empire trembles. The retaliation had been swift and merciless. Terran fleets cut through supply lines, shattered shipyards and left colonies trembling in silence. The Empire had thought itself untouchable, but now every day brought news of another defeat. In the great palace of the Emperor, the throne room no longer echoed with laughter. It echoed with fear. Advisors knelt low, their eyes downcast. Generals shifted uneasily, too afraid to speak. At last the Emperor broke the silence, his voice a growl. Why do they not stop? They strike our worlds, destroy our fleets, then vanish. What do these humans want? One general dared to answer. They do not want territory, my lord. They want fear. They want us to remember their decree. The Emperor's claws dug into his throne. Then we will crush them, but his voice lacked the certainty it once held. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Alien merchants refused to travel near Terran borders. Soldiers from other empires spoke in hushed tones about black warships that blocked out stars. Some worlds even began painting Earth's decree on their gates, as if praying the humans would spare them. And deep within the Empire itself, entire systems began to question their rulers. If the Emperor cannot protect us, they whispered, then what is the Empire worth? At the edge of the Empire's heartland, Terran fleets gathered in silence. Supercarriers stretched across the void, each one bristling with cannons. Dreadnoughts floated like iron mountains, their engines burning with steady fire. Escort ships darted between them, preparing for the storm to come. On the Eternal Wrath, Admiral Rourke stood before the star map. At its center glowed the brightest, red marker of all, the Empire's throne world. This is where it ends, he said. His voice was quiet, but every officer heard the weight behind it. We strike at their capital, we burn their pride, and we show the galaxy that Terran space is not a border, it is law. Captain Elias Kane, standing nearby, studied the map. His jaw tightened. The capital is not just defended, it's a fortress. Entire fleets guard it. The Council will not approve unless we are certain. Rourke's eyes narrowed. The Council does not decide this war anymore. The Empire chose the path when they crossed Haven 4 and Valara. Now, we finish it. In the War Council chamber on Titan, voices rose again. General Yara argued for caution. A direct strike on their throne could unite the entire galaxy against us. We have proven our strength. Perhaps now is the time to demand surrender. But Elder Maya's voice cut through, calm and certain. If we stop now, they will wait and strike again. If we leave their throne standing, they will call us weak. We gave one warning, they ignored it. Now we must show the price of disobedience. The chamber fell into silence. At last, the decision was made. The fleets would move on the capital. On the Empire's throne world, panic spread like fire. Civilians whispered in markets. Soldiers patrolled the streets with nervous eyes. The skies above glowed with endless lines of defense ships. Commanders assured the people that the capital was safe, that no human fleet could ever breach its walls, but in their hearts, they did not believe. One night, as the sun set over the golden towers of the capital, the stars above seemed to flicker. Farmers looked up. Children pointed with trembling hands. And then they saw it. Shadows. One by one, Terran warships emerged from the void. First came the escorts, then the dreadnoughts, then the carriers. Massive giants, their hulls black and sharp, blotting out the constellations. The Nemesis fleet had arrived at the gates of the Empire's heart. Panic erupted in the streets. Alarms screamed across the planet. Defense fleets scrambled into formation, their engines blazing as they rushed to meet the Terran wall of iron. On the Iron Vow, Captain Kane gave a single order. Hold position. The Terran fleet did not move forward. They simply waited, their guns aimed, their presence overwhelming. It was a message more powerful than words. We are here. We are not afraid. And your time is ending. From orbit, Admiral. Rourke sent a transmission to the Empire's throne. His voice was cold as steel. This is Earth's final decree. You crossed into Terran space. You ignored our warning. Now you will learn the price. The message echoed through the palace, through the streets, through every trembling ear on the capital world, and as the skies filled with Terran warships, the Empire trembled. The decree enforced, the throne world had never known silence like this. Its streets, once filled with pride and music, now echoed only with fear. People crowded on rooftops, watching the sky burn with the light of Terran engines. Children clung to their parents. Soldiers whispered prayers. Everyone knew the decree had come. Above the planet, the Nemesis fleet formed a wall of iron. Supercarriers hung like black moons, their weapons glowing faintly. Dreadnoughts moved into position, cannons ready. Swarms of escorts darted between them, silent as shadows. On the Eternal Wrath, Admiral Rourke stood tall. His gaze was fixed on the golden towers of the capital below. His voice carried across every Terran ship. This is the moment, he said. The Empire crossed into Terran space. They spilled our blood. They mocked our warning. Today we answer. Today the galaxy learns that Earth's decree is law. The order was given. Alien defense fleets surged upward, thousands of ships screaming, toward the human wall. Their plasma cannons flared. Their missiles streaked across the sky. The throne world believed its defenders would hold, but the humans did not retreat. The Nemesis fleet fired as one. Railguns thundered, their slugs tearing through battlecruisers like paper. Dark matter torpedoes collapsed entire formations in bursts of light. Orbital lances struck from above, cutting enemy fleets into fragments before they even reached firing range. Within minutes, the skies became a graveyard. Alien ships burned and broke apart, falling back toward the planet in flaming arcs. The once proud defenders of the throne world were gone, scattered like ashes. On the surface, the Emperor stood in his palace, his eyes wide as fire rained down from the heavens. His generals begged him to flee. There is nowhere to flee, he whispered. The ground shook as Terran bombardments began. Precision strikes fell across military districts, vaporizing fortresses, silencing command centers, burning fuel depots. The Golden Palace itself trembled as shock waves rolled through its marble halls. From orbit, Captain Elias Kane watched with cold eyes. Target their throne, he ordered. The Iron Vow unleashed its full broadside. Massive rail slugs screamed through the sky, smashing into the palace walls. Towers shattered. Statues of emperors crumbled into dust. The golden throne split apart, swallowed by fire. The emperor's final scream was lost in the roar of destruction. When the bombardment ended, silence returned. The throne world lay in ruins. Its fleets destroyed, its palace broken, its ruler gone. For the first time in its long history, the Empire knelt in defeat. Admiral Rourke's voice filled the skies, broadcast to every survivor, every system, every listening ear in the galaxy. Earth gave one warning. You ignored it. Now you know the price. From this day forward, let all who dwell among the stars remember, Terran space is sacred. Cross it, and you will not live to regret it. His words spread across the galaxy like fire. In alien capitals far away, rulers trembled. Some swore never to approach human borders again. Others destroyed maps of Terran space, too afraid to even look at them. Merchants refused to trade near Earth's colonies. Soldiers told stories of supercarriers that blotted out suns, of humans who fought like demons of a decree enforced with fire. Among humanity there was pride, but also sorrow. Thousands of Terran lives had been lost in the war. Families mourned. Entire colonies held vigils under the stars, whispering the names of the fallen. But no one doubted that the price had been worth paying. Haven 4 Valara, and every colony that had suffered now rested in honor. Humanity had risen stronger than ever. On Earth, Elder Maya stood before the assembly and spoke the words that would be remembered for centuries. We did not seek war. We sought respect. We did not seek conquest. We sought survival. The Empire forced our hand and we answered. May the galaxy never forget the fire that sleeps within humanity. Crowds across Earth and the colonies echoed her voice, chanting together as one. Do not cross into Terran space. On the bridge of the Eternal Wrath, Admiral Rourke gazed out at the ruined throne world. Captain Kane stood beside him, his face tired but resolute. Is it over? Kane asked quietly. Rourke did not answer at first. His eyes lingered on the distant stars. At last he spoke. For now. But they will remember. And if they forget, we will remind them. The Nemesis fleet slowly turned, its engines blazing, leaving behind the burning throne. The message was complete. The decree had been enforced. And across the galaxy, silence followed humanity's shadow. The stars themselves seemed to whisper, never cross into Terran space.